So nice to see everyone today. I want to welcome everyone to the stress-free real pain in the ass to create. I think systems that are going to help us reduce our stress, free up some time, and make our life a little bit more enjoyable. I'm Jess, and I'm a systems expert myself. I'm Julie's assistant at Business Guided by Nature. If you're a client or part of the Redwood Circle, we've most likely met before. If you're new to us, it's very nice to meet you. For those of you that don't know Julie, she's currently on maternity leave, but she helps hardworking coaches, consultants, and healers grow rooted, blossoming, burnout-free businesses modeled after the way that nature works. She's a real firm believer that if we step off the obsessive productivity hamster wheel and tune into nature's rhythms, that we can grow more sustainable lives, businesses, and even a better world. Creating workable, usable, stress-free systems really is a key part of Julie's whole vision. So we created this program so you could learn some skills and tools over the summer that are going to help you better systematize your business. All those systems that we always say we're going to create, I'm totally guilty of this too. This summer, we're going to carve out some time for those. They take a little bit of effort to create, but in the end, it's totally worth it. We're going to do some technical notes, and then I'll introduce today's teacher. If you've never used Zoom before, you have the ability to enter questions through the chat, which is down on the bottom of the screen. Our guest speaker is going to teach for the first 40 minutes or so and then answers your questions, so feel free to pop them in the chat throughout the presentation. A recording of the call is going to be up in a few hours on the main event page. And today we're very, very excited to create a resonant and remarkable and sustainable brand with Nela Dunato. Nela is a brand designer and the author of the book, The Human-Centered Brand. She's been working as a professional designer since 2005 and started off her own boutique design studio in 2013. She also teaches graphic design as an Adobe course instructor and through her own workshops. Her focus is on helping service professionals craft expressive brand identities and exceptional client experiences. Super excited. I was totally fangirling out before this because I absolutely love Nela's work. So I'm so excited to have her here today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to you, Nela.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your lovely introduction. And I'm very happy to be here. Thanks to everyone who is joining us live and who is going to watch the recording later on. I hope this is going to be very useful to you. So I suppose that you're here because you want to learn how to improve the brand for your business, and you also want to do it in a way that won't take too much of your time. So branding can be very time consuming. It can sometimes get very complex, but I'm going to share a review, like a step-by-step process that I use and that I teach. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how this helps you actually in improving your productivity and saving you time, and provide some tips on how you can do it on your own, actually, because there are many things that you can do on your own. You don't have to hire a designer if you're not at a point where you can do that right now. And I'll also give you some guidelines in the end, how to know whether you're able to do it on your own or if you're at the point where you need to hire a designer. So I hope we're going to be able to, I have so much things I want to share with you, but we're at a short notice, so I'm just gonna breeze through my program for today. But of course, if you have any questions in the end, we can then go deeper into some topics that you want to discuss. So take notes, write down your questions so we can actually discuss later. And I'll be happy to provide more details on topics that are most useful and most interesting to you. So first of all, I just wanted to mention that branding can be discussed from many different points of view. But since we are here at the stress-free summer school, I'm going to focus on the systems part of the branding. So there's a lot more to branding, but we're going to focus on how to make it all streamlined, systematized, so you can, save time and do it in a way that's easy and sustainable for you. So first of all, how do you know if you have a problem with your brand? How do you know if your brand is working for you or not? Well, some of the symptoms that I see in small businesses is, well, first of all, for example, when you look at your website, your social media graphics, your business cards, your email newsletter, etc., they all look like they were made by different people. Like when you put them all side by side, they don't have that coherent thread between them. They're kind of all over the place. Maybe you've used some templates from different sources. Maybe some of these you did on your own. And I mean, I'm sure you did your best. And I really love seeing how people can kind of bootstrap their own brand. But one thing it's important to note is that every piece that you create should be in relation to all the other pieces that are already in place. So that's one kind of a, not a really a mistake, but more of an issue that comes up when you create these assets over a long period of time. And it's really hard for you to keep all of them looking the same. Another issue that comes up often is the issue of confidence. Maybe you don't like your website or your business card and you kind of feel self-conscious about it and you don't want to share it. Like maybe you don't want to go out and promote your work because you keep waiting until you get your website really perfect. That's a common thing that I hear from people that I work with is like, oh, now I can finally go out and say to people what I do. And before that, we're kind of, yeah, I'm not really so into that. So another symptom that happens is that when you create visuals for your business, like proposal documents or presentations or social media graphics, it's always a struggle. And it's always like, where do I even start? How do I even go about this? Like every time it's just so hard, and it doesn't have to be like that. I'm gonna give you some tips later on how to make it faster and easier for yourself. And perhaps the most important symptom is that you attract the kind of clients that are not ideal for you, that are not your perfect, your dream clients, but are, you know, maybe they're like really not the kind of people that anyone would want to work with, or maybe they're just not people that would benefit the most out of working with you. So maybe someone else would be a better fit. When you have a brand that is really resonating with you and your dream clients, then the people who are not the right fit are going to kind of self-select. They're going to realize you're not the right service provider for them, and they'll just move on and find someone else they can work with. And another thing that comes up is that having a brand that doesn't work for you very well may hold you back from raising your prices, because people have certain, sorry, I'm just trying to fix my headphones here. Okay, excuse me. It may actually stop you from raising your prices because people have certain expectations of what the premium brands look like and what budget brands look like. So budget brands usually have a more like a DIY vibe, and premium brands look very professional, you know, very high-end, not necessarily like luxury. You don't have to have a lot of gold blinging things, but it looks really, you know, maybe a more like high-end minimalist stuff. So I'm not saying that branding is going to solve all your business problems, because it won't, but it's going to solve these problems that I've mentioned specifically. So now I would like to just share my presentation with you, because I've got some slides ready. Okay, no, I have to screen share first. Share screen, okay. So I hope everyone is seeing my slides right now. So if you're new to branding, if you've never done any reading or learning on that, I'm just going to run through quickly through some definitions so that we're all on the same page. So first of all, okay, this is stuck. Okay. So I hope you're seeing it all right. First of all, what is even a brand? Like I keep saying brand, but we haven't defined what it is. So a brand is a collection of impressions that the audience has about an organization, a product, or a person. A brand is intangible. It exists in the minds of other people. Every business has a brand, whether they know it or not. Okay, thank you. Okay, I see you're seeing the slides. Excellent. So next definition that I want to explain is the brand strategy. So that's like a more advanced term. but I just want to mention in case you're wondering what it is. There are two approaches to brand strategy. So a brand strategy in a broader sense, in a greater sense, is a conscious approach to creating and maintaining your brand. And in a more narrow sense, it signifies a document that is outlining the key aspects of your brand so that you and anyone who works in your business can refer to it and make business decisions that are aligned with your brand. Next, the visual brand identity. It's also called a brand identity system, or simply a brand identity or visual identity. It consists of all the graphic brand assets that are used in a specific way. And this includes the logo and its variations, all the colors, fonts, patterns, icons, illustrations, photo treatment, etc. And all of these elements and assets are documented in the brand style guide. And we'll talk about that later in more detail. Now, branding can refer to, as a verb, to the process of creating and managing a brand. And as a noun, it's typically used as a synonym for brand strategy and or brand identity. So it's kind of a blurry word that everybody uses in their own way. Okay, so these were the definitions, and here's sort of a graphic representation of how all of these work together. So we have this large circle that consists of everything that makes up a brand. And this big red surface has all these non-visual elements like your core values, your mission, vision, brand persona, customer experience, ideal client, etc. So it can have many other elements which are not on this chart. And then we have this inner circle of the visual identity, and this contains all the visual aspects that I've mentioned. And in the middle, we have the logo, which is kind of in its own circle because it's a separate element, kind of on its own, but it's also a part of the visual brand. So this is how you can kind of imagine all of these elements playing together. So this is a little graphic that I use, to explain what branding actually is, like what it does for your business. When you work with a client, they typically, if they don't know you, they don't trust you. And they need to learn, if you are a trustworthy person, if you're the kind of professional that they want to work with. And branding can be used to show that you are a trustworthy professional, that you can provide everything they need. I mean, not everything, but everything that your work refers to, and that you are the sort of person that they can trust in, that they can confide in, that will respect their needs, their boundaries, and all of that. So branding is the bridge that we use to overcome the trust gap. Now, when we talk about branding, an important aspect of it is consistency. Now, consistency is when all of your assets and all of your communication from your office, from you personally to the outside world is consistent. So when you put all of those pieces together, that they look alike, they appear alike, they're harmonious, they're aligned. That is really what we try to achieve by creating a brand. And this is why consistency matters. So branding is at its most technical level. It's a system that enables you to share your message consistently throughout all the media you use. And every time you set out to publish a blog post or design a presentation or get your business cards printed, you have your business blocks, your building blocks at your disposal, so you can arrange them in any combination and come up with something beautiful, professional, and appealing. So the first reason why we actually need consistency is that it helps your clients to remember you better. When people see something over and over again, they remember it. Like if they see your logo a dozen times, now they know what it looks like. The first time they see it, they probably won't remember it right away. Another benefit of consistency is that actually psychological research has shown that familiar people and familiar objects are perceived as more beautiful. So this has been tested, across the different continents, and it's something that comes up. When people see something repeatedly, then they perceive it as more beautiful. Another thing that's relevant to this class series is that systems, including branding systems, create ease and save time in your business. Consistency is also a sign of professionalism. Sorry about that. So your clients will believe that you know what you're doing. And finally, predictability makes people safer. When they know what to expect from you, then they are more relaxed in their dealings with you, when they communicate with you, or when they look at your content. So I want to share with you just a simple process, and unfortunately we can't get into the detail. If this was like a whole day workshop, we would be going through all of these elements, each of you for your own business, but I'm just going to run through all of these elements, and then later you're going to get a link to the page where you can download a workbook that I'm going to tell you about, where you can actually do this work on your own. So this is just a short intro, and then later, if you have time, and if you want to do this on your own, you can actually do this fairly easily by yourself. So this picture that I'm showing right now, I call it the brand discovery pyramid, and it's a part of my human-centered brand framework. I designed it specifically for service-based businesses because I found that the conventional branding that is taught in other books and in other classes, it just doesn't really work for us, for service-based business owners. So I wanted to do something that is tailored for us and that we'll be able to use more easily. So these are just the elements that I think are core, that are most important, but you can add more elements to that if you have the time, the budget, and the will to do it. So at the foundation of this pyramid, so that's the first thing that we decide in our business and our brand, are our core values. And our core values determine what you most care about, your big why behind your business, and how you approach your work in a unique way. So it's usually informed by your life experiences, and it's something you can trace to your early life, maybe even to your childhood, and it's following you around through your life experiences. And sometimes our core values are the reason why we start our business, because in our previous job, we just weren't able to do that. Next, after those core values, at the level above, we have our unique value proposition. And our unique value proposition is essentially your distinguishing factor, your special sauce, what's unique about your business compared to other similar businesses. So your unique value proposition is informed by your core values. Your core values actually add to that differentiation of your business. That's why it's important to know them ahead of time. Next, at the third level, our core values and our unique value proposition influence our brand voice. And that's the topics that you write about, how you express yourself verbally in writing or when you speak, and what kind of a relationship you're forming with your audience. So these are the qualities of your voice. Are you a more like a person who likes speaking in metaphors, or are you very like it's clear, simple? Everyone has their own natural way of expressing ourselves, and it's good to actually know what yours is, so you can hone in and perfect it and make it even more pronounced in your brand. Next, our ideal clients, which are typically, you probably heard about the ideal client avatar. You maybe even done some exercises on how to find your own. But what I actually like to emphasize in my approach is that your ideal client is a person who shares your core values, who needs your unique value proposition, and who appreciates your brand voice. So you don't have to pretend you're someone you're not. You don't have to create a different kind of expression just to appeal to your ideal client. It's actually the other way around. You just find ideal clients who are already resonating with your natural style of expression and what you already do better than anyone else. So after that, after we found all of these four elements, then we go to the visual brand identity. So we translate our core values and unique value proposition and our brand voice into a visual language. And then this visual language, we try to make sure that it appeals to our ideal client, that we use the colors, the fonts, and the photos and the graphics that our ideal client is likely to appreciate and resonate with. So the visual part is actually the last. People typically start and try to do visual identity in the beginning before they have all of this defined, and that just doesn't work. So this is my proposed order in which you are going to actually work on your brands. So we can go into more detail in the question section. But I would just move on to the next part. Like, when you have these elements, when you know what they are, when you've filled in the workbook or done this work through some other method, what do you do with them? My suggestion is to write them all down, to have it somewhere in a single place where you can refer to it over and over again. So the key to consistency is to have all your brand elements and assets documented in writing. And you don't have to know all this information off the top of your head. I don't know this information off the top of my head, and I do this for a living. So really, there is no reason why you shouldn't have it all written down. A brand style guide is the document that contains all of these elements and assets of your visual brand identity. Now, I'm going to show you a few examples of what a brand style guide looks like and what kind of information it contains, because I think that's the easiest way to kind of talk about it. So here's just one sample of a project that's actually one of my own projects, because I didn't know if I want to share my clients' work. I mean, I will some, but it's easier for me to share something that I did because I don't have privacy issues with that. So this is like a front page of this document, which is a PDF document. But you can actually do this in various softwares. So you can create it in a professional design software. You can do it as a PowerPoint presentation, or using Canva or any other free software where you can do this type of document. So first, what I like to include in a brand style guide, if the client knows what these elements are the values and the unique value proposition and the tagline. And the last one is in Croatian because it's actually a Croatian project. So it's not a very famous language. Next, on the other page, I have these brand voice qualities. So brand voice is defined in this way through voice qualities, through the topics you want to be known for, and through your role to your clients. So these are the non-verbal elements of your brand. You don't have to put them in your brand style guide, but I like to do that because it just reminds me and it reminds my clients what the most important part of your business is and what you always want to be able to communicate with your audience. Now, next is your logo. So I like to define one main logo on this page that just covers the whole page, and it's very big and bold. And then if you have more variations of your logo, you can add them on separate pages. So sometimes one logo variation is just not enough. You need several. So on this page, you can see that there are these color logos, which are used on a white or light background. And then you have this white logo that is placed on dark backgrounds because this one just wouldn't work in that scenario. And then you have a black logo that is used on like printing stamps and for any kind of use where you just don't have color. You have to make do with just black. So these are all the logo variations, and there is no other logos that you can use, only what you define in your brand style guide. So people can't just make up your logo on the spot. They have to use what you say is your official logo. Another part, so this is a little more nerdy part, and few people actually do this on their own. This is something that professionals mostly do, and that is logo reproduction restrictions. Because your logo has to be represented at a certain size so we all be able to read it very well. So this is like how much space is required around the logo. Like I can't put another graphic or another type of text here within this rectangle. It has to be, this place needs to be empty. And then I can put something else here or here or at the bottom with no problem. We also like to define the minimum size for screen and minimum size for print. So this, you don't want to go smaller than what you've put in here, because then you maybe just won't be able to see your logo right. So these are kind of what I recommend people do, but if you can't do that, then okay, that's fine. You can skip this part also. Next element that we actually need is our color palette. And sometimes our color palette is just the colors that we have in our logo, but other times we need more additional colors so we can create a little more interest in our designs, or so we can create websites which are very clear, where you can clearly see what's a button, what's a link, what's a banner, and what parts of it are not clickable. So colors are defined using different codes. You can see a couple of these codes here. The first one is called a hex code. That's the one we usually use on the web. If you've ever tried to customize your own website, like in WordPress or Squarespace, then you've probably seen these little hashtag codes that you can use. The RGB code is also used on digital devices. That's essentially the same thing as this, only written in a different way. So Word typically requires you to write codes in this format. And then we have the 4-color print process color code. So that's when you send something to a professional printer, then all of the colors have to be designed in this so-called CMYK system. So that's for printing. That's not for digital devices. And then additionally, there are special color systems, for example, the Pantone color systems, which have their own proprietary color names. You don't have to use that. I use it because I'm a designer, but it's entirely optional. So your hex code is super important. You need to know what your colors are exactly so that you can reproduce them in different software. If you can also convert this to RGB and CMYK, that's also a great way to have it. So this way, when you're creating something, you just copy paste this color codes. When I have to create some kind of a Facebook banner or change something on my website or customize my newsletters, I just open this page, I copy this code, and I paste it wherever I need to paste it, so I don't have to remember it by heart. So this is why our brand style guide is coming really handy. So I also have sometimes secondary colors, which are used less often. So that's like the difference between the primary colors, which are used very often, and secondary colors, which are used less often. You don't have to make that distinction. I sometimes do it and I sometimes don't. It depends on the project. Then we define the fonts that we can use. So sometimes you're going to have one font family, and the font family is just the fonts that have the same first name. So in this case, Questa Sans Regular, Questa Sans Italic, Questa Sans Bold, and Questa Sans Bold Italic are all members of the same family. So the same is for Arial Regular, Arial Bold, Arial Italic, etc. You can also define fonts that you will going to use if these ones are not available. For example, you can't use these in an ordinary email. You have to use something that is provided by the system. So you're just going to find some like Helvetica and Arial or Times New Roman to use it in that case, because these are very common. Sometimes you can also create secondary fonts if you want to create more interest in your designs. This is absolutely optional. You don't have to do that. But in this case, as you can see, I'm varying fonts in this document. So I have the secondary font for my headings, for my titles, and I have the primary font for this regular paragraph text. So this is how you define your fonts. So you always know what they're called, and you can see also what they look like. And then you choose the appropriate font for the correct use. Sometimes you can also create this little guide with sample font formatting, so you always know that your headings are always the same color. And for example, what colors are you going to use on your buttons when you hover over a button, or if you have some kind of a secondary button. Also link color, which is usually only used for links and not for other things. So we define all of these. You don't have to do this, but this is also very helpful in trying to figure out what colors you can use in your document. Additionally, you may have graphics that you're going to use in your brand. So these include textures, patterns, icons, or illustrations. So this is an example of some icons and textures that I'm using in this project. And you can create a whole database of them. You can create a bunch of them, but here you're going to just show some examples so that people can see what kind of a style of graphic you're using. And also some projects could use some photography and art direction. If you expect to use a lot of photos on your website, it's good to have defined, what kind of photos are you going to use. So for example, in this project, I like to use colorful photos, photos of people, photos of artworks, photos of like craft materials, because this is very relevant for this project. At other times, we may be using muted colors or black and white colors, or colors that are of a certain palette, like maybe bluish or greenish or brown, green, etc. So when you look at different materials, the photos actually tell you how this is all connected. Like these colors are pretty harmonious, but sometimes I see brands that have photos that are all over the place with all the different colors, and they just don't look like they are so well connected. So you might actually liken this to a mood board. If you've ever heard of a brand mood board, people usually create mood boards, so they pick photos online that they like and that are kind of harmonious in color and in content. So this was one example. So the last, I have the contact page, but I also have another example if you want to see. So I'm just going to run through this one quickly. So this is a longer one that I did from one of my clients who runs a cafe. So it has a lot of pages, has a lot of different elements. And so here is like a little introduction text that I didn't have in the previous ones. Then we have the logo variations. There's quite a few of them. Also the logo reproduction size, the minimum clear space, and how different logos are applied to different surfaces. So we have what you're not supposed to do with a logo, and then we have some color palette. So the primary color palette in this case has only 3 colors, but the secondary one has 6. So your secondary primary color palette can vary greatly. Then we have the primary font and the secondary font here. And here are some sample graphics that I created for this client. So these are like repeating patterns and different icons that we're using in their promo graphics. So this is a version with a tagline. And then we have some like sample graphics like a letterhead, an envelope, business cards, a signalization around the cafe, and also we have some staff uniform designs, like shirts and stuff like that. So depending on your business, you're going to require different things, and this is why your style guide is going to be unique to your business. Okay, so this is just a short template with, where you can just fill stuff in. And this has, I'll mention it later when I tell you a bit about my book, why this is relevant. So I usually have a template like this prepared on my hard drive, and then when I work with a new client, I just fill it in with new information and I change the design and add new stuff if needed, and that's it. So that's kind of how you would go about creating your style guide. Now, another thing that can save you a lot of time are the templates. So whenever you need to create anything like a social media graphic, a document like a proposal or an invoice or flyers or presentations, like anything you create one template once and then just use it in your business all the time. You just change the content and it's a fresh new document, but it uses the same consistent style. So for example, this presentation that you're seeing right now, it's actually based on a template that I've been using for a couple of years. So when I need to create a new presentation for a talk or a class, it takes me a lot less time because I'm reusing the same colors, I'm reusing the same font styles. I don't have to do it all over again. So software like PowerPoint and Word, you can create a template over there, and then just use it for any new documents that you create. And also, you can create your templates in Canva or in Photoshop or in any other graphic software that you use. For example, you can create a template for your blog post and then just switch up the photo and switch up the text, and it's an entirely new blog post graphic that you can use. So those were some of my tips for creating a brand style guide and creating your graphics in a way that will save you time. And now I want to just answer the question, which I also often hear, is when is the right time to create your brand, and when is the right time to hire a brand designer? So there are two ways you can approach branding. You can do it on your own, or you can hire a professional to do it for you. In both of these cases, branding falls into a very specific place in your business cycle. Of course, some people do it in a different way, but this is what I found that it works best. So the first step in your business building cycle is your conception, where you get the idea of your business and you decide that you're going to start it and this is what you want to do, and you're getting serious. So you're all past that stage by now. The second step is preparation, where you get the necessary education, licenses, and you register a business so you can actually legally do it. So I'm guessing most of you are way past this stage as well. And then we have the finding initial clients stage. And this is where you're essentially testing your business model. So you're working with people and maybe you're working with some initial pricing that you're going to shift later on. But essentially, you're meeting people usually in your immediate network, like your acquaintances, your extended family, work colleagues, like previous work colleagues, people you meet at a book club, in a gym, in a yoga studio, in your kids' class, and so on. So this is where service-based businesses find their initial clients. And when you realize that this is working, you're earning the money that you need to be able to actually make this business work, and now you want to promote your business to a wider range of people, before that step, you should create your brand. So once you've validated your idea in the real world, you create your brand before you get serious about your marketing efforts, so that you ensure that your marketing materials and all your promotion channels tell a consistent story and make a great and lasting impression. So after you create your brand, whether you do it on your own or whether you hire someone to do it, then you get really serious about marketing. Maybe you'll invest in your Facebook ads or some kind of marketing campaign, like a radio ads or maybe some flyers or something around your town. Whatever you do, now your marketing materials are going to look really good. And you know that when you invest money in marketing, that actually is going to make an impact. It's going to resonate with your right people. So you're going to get your return on investment. Now, when you're finding your initial clients, it helps to have some kind of a website already. But this is where you really get serious about a really professional site, or a site that has a lot of content that your clients are going to read and then become interested in working with you. And then the optional step is pivoting. And this is when you realize that your current business isn't working for you. You can change your business model or your offerings or your clientele. And in that case, you kind of have to go back to the branding portion and then market your new business in a new way to attract your new clients for your new business. Okay, so this is really where branding is set in your cycle. So if you have a working business model that's bringing you enough income, and if you know in general who your clients are, so you've been working with your initial clients and you know who to target in general terms, and you have the budget to invest in professional services, then you can absolutely hire a designer who will help you refine your ideal clients, and then create a visual representation of your brand. But if you're not sure about any of this, or if you don't have the budget, then you can use the process that I've told you earlier and actually create a brand of your own. So I actually have some resources that you can use on your own to do this process when you have the time. So first of all, there is, just a minute, here it is. So I have a free workbook that you're going to be able to download from the link that you'll get in the email that Jess will send you after this class. So it's a free workbook that takes you through my framework, and it helps you discover your own core values, your unique value proposition, your brand voice, your ideal client, and your visual brand identity. So it has questions, it has some checklists, and it also has some processes. For example, a process on how to create your mood board. So it's super useful. And I also have a little section on color symbolism if you're interested in that sort of thing. So that's something that I would suggest that you use in order to create your own brand on your own. So another resource is my new book, which is coming out next Monday, July 30th. And the free sample is already available at thehumancenteredbrand.com. So you can check it out for free and see if you're interested in it, if you want to read the whole thing when it comes out. And this is where I went into super detail about everything I talked about today. So if this got you interested, and if you really have branding on your to-do list, like this is the next big project that you want to get into, I would really recommend that you read the book, because it is going to help you do exactly that in the right way, in the way that is really resonating with passionate, heart-centered, human service-based businesses. So this is something that I've written specifically for people, like you. And finally, if you're tired of doing everything by yourself and you just want someone to come in and make this problem go away, I can also help you with that. I'm a brand designer and a brand strategist, and I can lead you through this process so we can make your business look gorgeous and professional. So if you want to find out more, my website is neladunato.com, and you can email me with any questions at my email address. And of course, you can talk to me on Twitter. If you have Twitter, if you use Twitter, I'll be happy to answer your questions at a later date. So if you're watching the recording and you're like so bummed out that you weren't able to be here to ask questions, please feel free to email me. There is no deadline. Like whenever I receive your question, I'm going to answer it. It's going to be my pleasure. So, okay, so that's what I have from you regarding my presentation. And now we're able to take any questions that you might have. We can just talk in general or in specific, whatever you would like to hear more about, maybe something that I mentioned here, or maybe something that I didn't mention that you're really curious about. I'd be happy to talk about that now. So you can either type your question into the chat, or you can unmute yourself if you have a microphone and ask your question live. So, do we have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
really quick.
please.
Yeah. So I'm definitely at a point of pivot. That's where I'm at. And I've got a logo from, that I've used in the past, which I still feel like it could work, but I'm not sure if I should just kind of leave it to the side and play with new, kind of go through the whole rebranding process, because I am at a pivot, and see if it still resonates, or if I should keep it in view. And I'm also wondering if keeping it even in view as a possibility might affect how I go through the rebranding, like really go through a very authentic process of pivoting and rebranding. Do you have any insights on using old logos or ditching them?
Yes, thank you. That's a common question, I suppose. So if you have something that you still like about your logo, so for example, when I work with a client that already has a logo, I ask them, so is there something about your logo that you really like? Are there certain elements that you really feel that resonate still with your new direction? In that case, just make note of those elements. You don't have to keep the entire logo, but maybe your new logo is going to be on a similar tone. Maybe they're going to look similar, but I would suggest that you still go through the process as if you would be coming up with something completely new, but still keep this in mind, because that's just another option for you. So when we create these graphics for ourselves, like the logos and other types of graphics, you want to create several variants and then see which one works best for you. You don't want to just get married with the first idea that you get. So I would suggest that you keep this one in view and maybe try to come up with something new that's kind of different, and just, feel into it. Like, okay, do I feel this one has these qualities that I really want, or is this one maybe better at that? So don't just scrap the logo entirely. I think you can absolutely have it on the side, but be open to something new that may be even better, because you never know. The creative process is weird, it's organic, and things unfold in their own way. So just be open to whatever comes up, but also it's great that you already have something that you are reasonably satisfied with. So it's not like all or nothing. It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Okay.
Do you have follow-up questions, or does that answer your question?
No, that definitely answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. So I see a question in the chat. Is an Instagram style guide different than this? If you mean the public style guide, for example, I think Instagram has something on their website. Many companies have style guides published on their website in the form of a web page. For example, I think MailChimp has this, and Asana also has this. So many of these brands actually have public repositories of their graphics and websites which cover different styles. And so these style guides are made as websites, and they are public. So they are used by all the employees in the company. Typically, you'll see that in companies that have like hundreds of employees, because it's very inefficient to just share a PDF with everyone. But style guides are actually they pretty much serve the same purpose no matter which way you create them. So if you create them just as you can have like a one-page style guide. I don't have one here at the moment, but there's you can have just one page that has all of these elements, but just in a very short form. Like you have a logo, and then you have the other logo variation, and you have the font that you want to use, and you have maybe some color palette, and it all fits on a single page, like a letter or an A4 size paper. You can absolutely do that too. So the format itself doesn't matter as much as that it contains all the information that you want it to have. So when you need it, that it's at your fingertips. You can keep it on your desktop, on your Google Drive or Dropbox or somewhere. So you can keep it on your phone. Like I have style guides backed up all over the place, because you just never know when you're going to need one. So the important thing is to do it in a way that serves you, to do it in a way that you'll be able to access it very easily. You can have a private page. Like if you use WordPress or Squarespace, you can just create a new private page with snippets of these colors, with examples of these different headlines, like the main headline, smaller headline, lists, and so on, and all these little graphics that you may be using. So you can do that all on one page. And then I'll try to find one if I have it. Just a minute. Okay, paste. I think if I can remember the link, because I don't have it bookmarked anywhere, I would really like to show you that. Okay. Okay, it's loading. Excellent. Just let it load completely and then I'll share it with you. Okay. So let me just screen share. Okay, so here's an example of a web page that is actually live on my client's website, and it has like heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, different paragraphs, lists, and then it has like a quote element, you know, with these little icons, and then it has a table, separators, these little specific elements that we created for the client's website, buttons, input fields like a little form, and then there's like full width graphic. Actually, it's a photo. So this is something that I've created for my clients so that they can just copy paste things whenever they need them. So that's something you can do for yourself, to just create a page that contains all of these elements that you need to use, and then just copy paste them when you need them, and you won't have to remember all of these different settings, like, you know, font size settings, color settings, and so on. Okay, so does that answer the question? Please type in the chat if you have more follow-up questions on this topic. Okay, so do we have other questions? Jess, do you maybe have questions?
I do not. I thank you though, because you gave a lot of really great information and I appreciate it. And I'm very excited for your book to come out because I'll definitely be grabbing a copy.
Thank you, and thank you, Deb. I'm really glad that you find this useful. Well, I love this interactive form because, you know, I have a lot of things to say, but I want to talk about the topics that are most important to you, that are relevant for you right now. So, you know, if there's something that you want to ask about, you know, I would be happy to share more details. And yeah, and thanks. I'm also excited about the book. It's been a labor of love for the past 18 months or so. So I'm glad to have it out soon.
It's very exciting. I want to thank you so much for joining us, Nela. I'm going to go ahead and close now. And if anyone has any questions that come up as they think through the information you presented, they can definitely reach out to you. But I want to thank you for this awesome class, Creating a Resonant, Remarkable, and Sustainable Brand. And I want to thank everybody here for joining us. I hope you found this information useful. I definitely did. And let us know if you have any feedback. We definitely love that. It helps us improve these classes. You can email at contact@juliewaltcoaching.com. We'll send out a note later today when the recording is up, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you. I wish everyone a wonderful day as well. And please write back if you have any follow-up questions or any feedback. And I've been so happy to spend this. Actually, it's evening where I am. So this has been very wonderful. And thank you for coming. And hope to hear you soon.
Bye.
Bye.